How did the school day work?
We had prayers, and then, always prayers like before dinner. We all had to stand with our hands together.
So who are your friends? Who are your mates at school?
Well, obviously Muriel Down, quite a lot of the evacuees, and it's only this year for the first time that I haven't had cards from some Jews who obviously had been sent out of where they were, and they lived up. If you got past the chapel and getting up to, there's a seat, isn't there, much further up, than the house there. I forget who lives in the house now. No, they lived in that one. So she and I got very friendly, and it was her fault that I got into all the trouble. We used to play up above where my mum was working down there. We used to play up there, and we'd learned how to open the windows out, And obviously we'd got dolls and all things up there, And she pushed a doll out and it landed on a child outside on us. And Mum grumbled at me, "You shouldn't have let her do it." And I'm quite sure I said, well, I wasn't beside her, but...
So when you went to school, what do you remember about your school days in Kingsnympton?
Well, I know that Nora Tucker, she had to take me up every dinner time by hand, up to my mum's to have dinner, because there were no school dinners, nothing like that. So even there sometimes I get a dig, I took you up every time. And I can remember, well, not the instances, but yeah, I can remember her taking me up. The teacher that I remember was called Miss Dinnicum. I learned afterwards she lived at one of the villages over there. And a little bit about, well, not about her, but so she used to stay with the Hobbses, the Mr. and Mrs. Hobbs over that way, but went home every weekend. And Muriel Down from Spittal, because they would have to walk to the village, they'd worked out that every Monday morning the head teacher had got a taxi, to bring her back. And Muriel and George and those, they'd worked out there's a certain time when they drove along the bottom, and they would go that way, come down, and then the car would stop, give them a lift. So that's how they got up home, Instead of that, they had to walk all the way round.
So on a Monday, they get a lift up in the taxi.
Well, they'd work. That Miss Dinnicum was coming down.